Today, we are talking about the misconception, and it's a huge one. And if you understand this, you can use it to beat the system. And yes, it is a system. What? Well, the bureaus just report the information that they're given. Now, as simple as that sounds, a lot of consumers don't understand this. And if you understand this, you'll appreciate it. You'll appreciate the process and you will use it to capitalize and leverage and get your results. Look, the bureaus are in the data business. They're not in the credit business. They obtain, maintain, and sell information. That is what they do. They maintain these massive databases, right? Your information, your mom's information, your dad's information, your cousin's information, everybody's, right? There's 68 million people with bad credit, and there's 270 million or some odd scoreable consumers, and all those people's information is in these huge databases, and that is what they do. They write these algorithms and they all that stuff. That's what they do. That's what they do. They're not in the credit business. When you send in a dispute letter, it's basically going to what I consider the complaints department, right? That's what it is. You're sending it into the complaints department. And that's why the process is what it is, right? Their job is to report the information that the creditors pay them to, right? So if you have a small little rinky-dink medical collection agency, they're going to report to maybe TransUnion because they're the cheapest, or TransUnion and Equifax if they're kind of, a medium company. And if it's a larger company, let's just say like Capital One, they're going to report to all three. And they're going to report when you opened it, when you paid on time, when you didn't pay on time, that it went to charge off, collection, so on and so forth. They are paying to report this information. So that means, number three, that the Bureau's customers are the creditors. They are not the consumers. Their direct customer is the creditor. Okay? Their direct customer is the creditor. So what does that mean? That means that it is in the Bureau's best interest, right, to appease the creditor, not the consumer. And that also means that they are not going to speak for the Bureau's, the creditor's money, right? And most importantly, what happens if this whole system fails? Like, what happens if, one day the creditors all get together, in big conglomerate, and they all sit in this room and they're like, hey, you know what, dude, this is not working out. Too many people, millions of people are able to just remove their negative items and pretend like it didn't happen. And the information that we get when we pull a new report to give Bob and Susie their mortgage, it's not information that we can trust. So if the creditors feel that they can no longer trust that the bureaus will report correct information, they're going to stop lending based off of credit reports and scores. And that's going to be scary. That is going to be scary because failure of the credit reporting system would result in the cease of lending by financial institutions and the creation of a unified reporting system reflecting centralized payment data and the end of the ability to dispute this data, right? Because it would all originate directly from the lenders. So if you screwed over Capital One, or let's just use Bank of America, right? Because there's more Bank of America walk-in institutions than there are Capital One, unless you live in somewhere like New York City. So let's pretend we're talking about Bank of America. You screw over Bank of America, $2,000, not a large amount, right? But you're like, hey, I now want a line of credit with Capital One. Due to the fact that you screwed over the other bank, when you go into the new bank to get an account, even for $200, you're not going to get it because all they have to do is the same thing that you do when you want to check your bank account balance. They're going to log into this centralized system and they're going to see that you did not pay Bank of America. And they're going to be like, oh, hold your horses, dude. No. Like, you totally need to satisfy that first and probably, wait 5 years and then come back. So if I were to use an example, it would probably have to be, okay. So back when I had the majority of my surgeries, so started when I was 14, I'm 36 now. So obviously that's a long time. wasn't like a central system where like one doctor can log in and see all your medical records, medications that you're taking, everything that they've done to you, your surgical records, all that kind of stuff. Now it's really by state, but soon, I give it maybe 5 years, it's going to be like where someone can log in California and see the stuff that you did in New York, right? So what happened was they came up with a system. I think it's called Hicksney, New York or something. So they came up with a system that you agreed to, like you have to check a box, yes or no, that you agreed to let Dr. X see your records that Dr. Y and A and B and C and D and all of them put into the system. So it's a centralized database that shows how many doctors you've been going to, your medication list, how many times you went to the emergency room, your x-rays, your surgical records, every single thing that went into that system. Now, all of these doctors can log in and see, right? Same thing that, I did this rotation in trauma center in Palo Alto, and there was a guy that came in and he was like, oh my god, like I broke my foot and I need pain meds. And they're like, okay, well, let's get an x-ray first, and let's just look at your records. So they go and they log in and they look at his records, and they saw that he like broke his own foot just to go in there to get drugs. But they were able to see this, that he went to like 5 hospitals in the past 24 hours trying to get medication, and that he didn't know that he was in the system that, number one, flags you as a user or an abuser or a seeker, but that all these other doctors can see this, right? So that's the type of system that I'm talking about. So when I say the creation of a unified reporting system reflecting centralized payment data, that's what I'm talking about. And because there is no third party such as a credit bureau to screw things up and report, false or inaccurate information, there's no way for you to dispute it. So this gets rid of, your ability to have a semblance of control over your credit that you've actually had since, what is it, 1973 or so. Prior to that, we really couldn't access our own information. I mean, as crazy as that sounds. So I've been warning you guys that things like this are going to happen. And basically everything that I've said has come true. So what's the deal? Well, here's a misconception. Like I mentioned, the credit bureaus speaking for the creditor's money. Dude, they're not. They're not there. They can't say, oh, well, I see that you owe $2,000, but don't worry about this $2,000. We're just going to get rid of it. Don't even worry about it. The bureaus can't speak for the creditor's money, okay? And here's another thing. There's no humans involved. Okay, so if you go and look this up yourself, I'm not giving you false information, but do your due diligence and look this up yourself. There's 25,000 employees for Experian, and they're all working from home right now. It was like a memorandum that went out and it said effective immediately, all Experian employees are going to work from home. So this, 262,000 square foot facility that spans 26, city blocks or whatever for Experian, it's like run by a handful of people that man machines, and that's it. Everybody else is working from home. It's not just Twitter. It's not just Google employees. It's like people that actually process information, okay? Like your disputes, unless you are, and yes, I'm going to say this, Jay-Z or Beyonce or the president or president-elect, your stuff does not go to a human, okay? And another thing is that even if it did, you're not on the VIP list. And so therefore, it's going to be turned into a small 2 to 3 digit code, and it's going to go through a Oscar, and it's going to say, hey, look, I'm a computer. This is information that I have. What's your information? Is it the same? Yes? Okay, it's verified. So when you get frustrated that your stuff is coming back as verified and they're, or they're just not responding to you, you have to understand the system that is in place, not just in general. We're not talking about a regular dispute process. We are in a different time right now. Okay. We're headed into a different economy. Nothing is the same. The credit game is not the same. Nothing is the same. And speaking of the credit game, oh my God. Okay. Get your own content for your videos. Seriously, stop stealing my content. Anywho, moving forward, the reason why you have one computer speaking to another and coming up with the same result is because the creditors are the ones that are giving the bureaus the information, right? So obviously they're going to have the same information. And you send this super detailed, 90-page letter, and it all gets turned into this little code that says, not mine, wasn't late, belongs to someone else. So once you understand how this works, you can use it to get your results. But if you don't understand it, if you don't know the misconception and you don't understand the process, then you can't appreciate it and you cannot use it to your advantage. And guess what? Their cheapest tactic is to ignore you. Especially right now. Especially right now when millions of people aren't paying their bills. Especially right now when millions of people didn't pay their mortgages. And especially right now when there's like all of these people that are trying to get new credit when they didn't pay their previous credit, and banks are not freaking lending anymore right now. I mean, we're going to talk about that in a second, but don't you understand that all they have to do is say verified, 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 and you're going to go away. All they have to do is ignore you and you're going to go away. There's only a small percentage of consumers that actually stick with the program, stick with disputing, doing it the right way, that actually get to the end. And they know this. They know that we live in a microwave society. We want everything right now, right now, right now. Instant gratification, microwave food, fast food, drive-through movies, all this stuff, right? We want it all right now. We don't want to wait. We don't want to put in the time. We don't want to invest in ourselves. And they know that. And that is why all they have to do is ignore you. Because guess what? Look how much money they've already lost. Just look at the original thing, right? How did they lose money originally? You didn't pay them, right? Or you paid them late. And so they reported it. So they lost money there. Even if you eventually paid them or it was just a 30-day or whatever, they still lost money. That was the first time they lost money. Then they tried to collect it from you, right? Mail, phone, collection agency, whatever. They lost money there. Then if they actually had to sell the account, they only made a little shebang off of it, right? They lost money there. Then if they try to take you to court or whatever, they're going to lose money there. They have to actually hire someone to take you to court to maybe get money. Because guess what? If they get a judgment against you, all you have to do is move out of state. And what are they going to do? Right? The cheapest tactic for them is to ignore you. Because it also costs them money to investigate. That's manpower, that's people, that's computers, that's all that kind of stuff. Dude, all they gotta do is ignore and you're gonna go away. You're probably watching this after getting ignored yourself or being told that it's verified and you're just like, I'm gonna give up. I gotta find something else. Right? How many times did you actually dispute before you said, I'm gonna give up? Once? Twice? 3 times? Seriously? How hard did you work to graduate from college or from high school or get your GED? You worked hard, right? You worked your butt off, right? Even just to get passing grades, you worked really, really hard. I mean, unless you're freaking Einstein and everything comes simple to you. I mean, but even then, advanced calculus or whatever. I don't know. I don't really care. So you worked you worked your ass off to get everything that you have right now. Your job, your car, your house, your apartment, the shoes that you're wearing right now. You worked for them, right? So how is this any different? Why do people think that this is going to come easy? That the most important thing that's going to open the door to all these different opportunities, that it's going to come easy. It's not. That's a huge misconception. It is a myth. And these things are sold to you so that you're just going to open your wallet. And that's not the truth. That is not the truth. This is difficult. This is just as hard or harder than you doing this the first time, because you did it the first time, you screwed up, and now you want to do it again, right? But you first have to clean it up before you even think about that mortgage or the new credit cards or the loans or whatever. So that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying here, okay? This is difficult, and if you don't invest in yourself correctly the first time, it's going to just get harder and harder. And the longer you dispute, the harder it is to get your deletions. And guess what? These letters, these, templates that people think are, oh my God, so threatening, they're not threatened by a few letters. I hear this all the time. They have to respond to me or it needs to be deleted. Well, guess what? Their computer, first of all, is going to say that they did respond and then, you're shit out of luck, right? And okay, well, if they were threatened by a few letters, then the laws would be changed to ban them. Simple as that. I could give you like 90 million different examples of that. But do you remember when e-cigarettes came out? I actually remember the first commercial I saw about them. What was that chick's name? Jenny McCarthy, I think. She was like, "Oh, now I can like smoke inside the bar. I don't have to go outside when it's raining and stand. It was either stand behind a dumpster or hide behind a dumpster so I don't get wet in the rain. I can just smoke inside." Because it's not real smoke, it's not going to bother anybody. I'm not going to go home to my children stinking like a cigarette and everything's going to be great, right? So then, because people were smoking inside and all this kind of stuff, and they didn't know what was actually in these e-cigarettes and all that kind of crap, they put all these restrictions on them. Right. So everyone's doing it and then they put all these restrictions on them. They changed the laws. I think they actually banned them in certain states or counties or whatever. I don't know. But that's what I'm saying here. There's like so many different references that I can give. But when they're threatened by something, when there's a problem, they change the laws and they ban it or they restrict it, whether it's the manufacturer or whatever, they change the laws. So if you think that they were threatened by this whatever letter, right? The 1681 letter, a 609, a 604, a 611, a 623, they would ban them. It's as simple as that. And let's just send a letter and boom, all the accounts are gone and now I can get new credit and do it all over again, right? Wrong. The system exists so that if it's used the right way, you can remove inaccurate negative information. You can raise your credit scores and rebuild. That's called finding the key, right? It has to be done the right way. Let's look at the real though. Let's just do it. So what do? How do we capitalize